right, chapter 37. Fritz and I had a surprise waiting for Mama when she returned the next morning. The door was already in place in the tunnel. It must have been a closet door once, we decided, because the narrow width was perfect for this space. And after we lifted it onto the dirt ceiling and added Fritz's mortared bricks to hold it up, we started pushing in other bricks to force the door upward. That part was incredibly hard, but Fritz was smart. He figured out how to raise the door little bits at a time with smaller wedges, then work the brick in to push the dirt upward. Did the door do any good? Mama asked. We didn't know, but the ground wouldn't sink any further, and Fritz said he would keep a better eye on the ceiling from then on. After her inspection was complete, Mama pulled out the food she had promised us. Several times during the night I had wondered what she might bring, but never imagined anything this wonderful. There were meat patties, honey and crackers, some fruit, and even a few candies. Where did this come from? I asked gleefully. Mama frowned. Will you promise not to think too badly of me? Fritz and I agreed, and then she said, It was in Herr Krause's apartment. I figured he had lived there alone and nobody had cleaned his place out yet. The food should go to somebody, why not us? But still, this is stolen food, and that was wrong. To make her feel better, I told Mama about taking the pulley. She scolded me properly for that, not only for stealing, but for the risks I've taken. I didn't mind. Knowing that her crime wasn't as bad as mine seemed to make her feel better, and that was good enough for me. While we were eating, Mama also pulled out a letter addressed to Fritz. He turned it over once in his hands, then frowned and tore it open. He had to hold up a flashlight to read it, and when he did, I saw the military stamp show through the paper. What is it? Mama asked. Fritz's eyes drifted from her over to me. They changed the date for me to report to the military, he muttered. I'm expected to begin serving on Monday. That's only 2 days away. I nearly exploded. You had till the end of the month. You're not even 18 for another 2 weeks. I worried about this. Mama's hands began shaking. Orders change sometimes. I put my hands over hers to steady them, but instead it made mine shake too. We had so far to go and still no idea of how we'd get back to the surface in the west. We'll never finish this tunnel by then. We were barely going to make it by next week. Fritz crumpled up the letter and threw it on the ground. Yes, we will. He stood up and grabbed the shovel and began tearing into the wall. Without a word, I picked up the bucket to continue working while Mama quickly packed up the food. If we weren't finished in 2 days, then nobody could have finished it because we would dig harder than anyone ever had before. When Fritz got tired, Mama took over for him, and while the one worked, the other helped me haul dirt up to the basement. Meter by meter, our tunnel grew and expanded. It was no wider than it had to be, and the work wasn't as neat as Fritz and I had done in the beginning. But we were going forward. By early afternoon, Fritz and I were so tired that Mama insisted we sleep while she continued working. So we returned to the air raid shelter, my eyes closed before my head even hit the ground. I wasn't sure how long she let us sleep, but it felt like hours. I only knew that when she called for us, we both sat up, groggy and disoriented. Then Mama called again, and I raced into the tunnel with Fritz at my heels. Mama held up a hand for us to stop, then motioned for us to be silent. With urgency in her voice, she whispered, Listen, and pointed to the end of the tunnel. I couldn't hear anything at first, but when I walked forward and pressed my ear against the dirt, a sort of sound did come through. Thumping. Digging. Something not far from us was hitting against rock. Someone else was tunneling. Panicked, the three of us retreated to the shelter to discuss the matter. There must be other East Germans trying to escape, Fritz said. Somehow our tunnels have intersected. If we connect with them, we can join our efforts. If you're right, that's too risky, Mama said. We don't know these other people, and we shouldn't tie our fate in with theirs. If they are found out, then we are found out. But we could move so much faster then, Fritz said. Besides, they didn't sound that far away. They'll probably connect with us at some point anyway. We might as well try to get to them, and see how we can help each other. I think the sounds came from ahead toward us, Mama said. Could it be Stasi building a tunnel along the length of the dust strip? That way anyone who tries to cross underground would have to run into them. That was possible, maybe even likely, and if she was right, then it meant We were only another meter or so away from walking directly into their hands. There's a third option, I said. Maybe the tunnel is coming from the west. What if it's Papa? I hadn't believed it until the words emptied from my mouth, but once they did, I knew I was right. Papa would never have asked us to dig. Fritz and Mama both told me that. But maybe he wasn't asking me to dig. Maybe the dance was telling me that he was already digging. Mama didn't seem convinced, but Fritz nodded his head and said, he sent Gerda the picture of the building, but it wasn't about where our tunnel should start. He was telling her where his tunnel would end. He wanted us to be ready for the time he broke through. What if you're wrong? Mama asked. How can we know it isn't the Stasi? We couldn't know for sure, but we couldn't stop digging either. Maybe when we broke through the other tunnel there might be other East Berliners or the Stasi. Or, as I was sure must be the case, we would find my father. Who do you think it is? All right, write your $1 summary and write a prediction. Who do you think it's going to be?